Hey, shalom, everybody. Welcome to another teaching on the podcast. This week is actually, so I am going to double post this week. I know I said this last week, but this week I'm going to double post, but I wanted to give a little context to the double post, so if it seems weird. So what I'm thinking I might do for the next couple weeks is double post with like a regular teaching along with a chapter of the book, the truth, the book of James, because I'm compiling the audiobook at the moment, just kind of getting that all sorted. And so I thought it would be kind of a neat way to promote the book and just give people a chance if they're on the fence about it or just like, whatever. It gives them a chance to listen and see if they like it and, all that good stuff. So this will just be like a teaching, but then I will also post chapter 1 of the truth, the book of James. So, which if you haven't gotten your copy yet, it's available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com, and it's basically it's a novel about a character who finds a book that's written about them, and it's half finished, and it's meant to be a teaching tool of sorts. It's entertainment, but it's also meant to have some theological teaching applicability about like the sovereignty of God and how our will and God's will fit together. So if you haven't gotten it yet or haven't, this is the first time you're hearing about it, check it out. I have links in my bio, and then also if you literally just type the truth, the book of James on Amazon, we're like the first thing that pops up, which is kind of cool. Praise God. But anyways, so for this week, this teaching, I'm really excited. Actually, this is one of those little gems that I found in my recordings or whatever. And the conversation, the topic of the teaching is, why did Jesus have to die? Specifically, maybe, why did he have to go to the cross? And like, that's a very interesting question, right? Especially like in the context of his sovereignty, and if the idea is that we're one with God and that he came to destroy sin and that we don't have a free will, and so like, why did he have to come and die brutally on the cross to somehow like free us from sin and stuff? So it's a really good teaching, and I was just sort of looking through my different like recordings on my phone, and I found this one. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like great. Yeah, let's share this with the people. So without further ado, let's jump right into it.
Die to reveal that we're one with him, or was there another way that he did that? Like, was his death only to prove that he's responsible for everything, or was there another way he could have, like, was there another way that he could have, like, revealed to us that we're all one? Because it seems like if he could have just revealed to us that he was the one responsible for everything, that the crucifixion never needed to happen. If that makes sense.
But if God has set forth the law that you pin black ribbons on the culprits, and if he reveals himself as the culprit, can he just reveal himself as the culprit and not get a black ribbon pinned on him? No. Like, that would be contrary to...
Yeah, that would make him a liar.
Like based on that system, he can't reveal himself as the culprit and also say, and I'm not going to accept any black ribbons.
He'd be unrighteous.
Now, but the challenge with that is you could be like, okay, well, like he could have made things such that there isn't the rule that you pin black ribbons on culprits, right?
And he also could have made us not poop, you know?
Right. But so it's like, okay, well, why did he even just make it so that we have to pin black ribbon that the wages of sin is death? Why did he make that the case? And I think I don't think that was necessarily. It's hard to say something like this because it's like limiting God, it could seem, but like God is just, and so ultimately, the way he sets things up is ultimately gotta like justice is a thing, and it would be unjust for him to set up a rule that there is no consequences for sin, that there are no black ribbons for culprits. That would be unjust for him to do, and that so he couldn't do that, right? He has to make there be consequences for sin. That there so he can't not do that. And that being the case, it's also if he's revealing himself as the culprit, not just a culprit, the capital THE culprit, then there's justice that has to be served in that. And I think this actually kind of goes to the answer that I was trying to think about how you describe that, where it's like that by revealing him as the culprit, he had to have a black ribbon pinned on it, and not just any black ribbon, all the black ribbons. God took all the sin, he gathered up every possible black ribbon that's ever been made and put it on Jesus. And the beauty of that is it's serving justice, right? It is just to do that. So it satisfies justice. So he was able, because if you have God who is just, like that's an aspect of who he is, and yet he's creating sin. He's creating this reality bubble where sin's existing. Well, how can that sin exist and yet he be just? Well, he's got to have there be justice served on that sin. There has to be the black ribbon being pinned on the culprits in order for it to be consistent with who he is. And so, as part of reconciling sin back into himself, justice has to be served against sin. Against the black ribbons have to be pinned on the culprits. And in revealing that Jesus is the culprit, he can't have done that and not have pinned a black ribbon on him. And being revealed as the culprit, he had to pin all black ribbons on him. And then also, that's great because that also serves the purpose of pointing towards him as the culprit, right? Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, he himself in the flesh did not deserve a black ribbon. So that's also a data point in this whole picture, right, for somebody to consider is God clearly pinned black ribbon on this guy, but he didn't deserve any black ribbon. So why did this guy who didn't deserve any black ribbon get pinned with black ribbon by a just and holy God? Makes you wonder, for whose sin did he get the black ribbon pinned on him? It's for all sin, right? He died for all the sins. And so that also helps point towards him as the culprit. Does this help?
Yeah.
Or what other speed bumps are you hitting?
How are they still like how are they still black ribbons whenever they've been made known that they belong to him? Like, okay, if God says don't eat this apple and then I eat the apple, then a black ribbon belongs on me, right? But then he reveals that it was him working through me. Like, yes, the apple was still eaten and he's responsible for that. But, like you said, it's not about whether you did or didn't do the thing, it's about whether you did it in unbelief. But he was in faith the whole time. And he was responsible for it. So, like, once it's made known that he was responsible for the apple being eaten and he wasn't in unbelief, and it's like, how is it still... How is he deserving of a black ribbon? Like, not saying that he didn't do the thing, but it's like, because he's the one that did it, it's no longer a black ribbon.
And I think this is kind of where you start to, like, there's a difference between the Father and the Son in kind of that regards. Because when we're saying he who's getting the black ribbon pinned on him, it's Jesus Christ. He had to be manifest in the flesh to like participate in the receiving of the black ribbon, right? So it was him in the flesh that received it. It wasn't him as the Father that received it.
That's where the author writing himself into the book thing is really helpful, because it's like if you wanted to write a world where that was the rule, it's like you'd put yourself like in it. Like, that's how you could be author and also in the book. It's
Right.
like, I'm going to just write myself into the book, take all the black ribbons, because, like, that's my rule that I set up.
Right, but like if we say, you know, that the black ribbon is to be put to death by firing squad, let's say, just something very specific, oddly. Well, like if I'm writing a story where, you know, the person who is the true author of the things that are written in the story should be put to death by firing squad. Well, I'm not actually like gonna go put myself in front of a firing squad in real life, right? Like, it's like, no. The way I'm going to satisfy that is I'm going to write myself as a character in the book, and I'm going to kill myself in front of a firing squad in that book. And in the context of that world, it's going to resolve itself. Like everything's resolved and you know, matched up, balanced, justice, and so it's not like the imbalance or the injustice in this story would then demand that I in real life get killed by a firing squad. Like that's ridiculous, right? Because this reality is not the same as my reality. Just like we don't go arrest Stephen King for all the murders of all the characters in his book, right? That would be ridiculous. And which I think is kind of to your point, is like, how does it make sense to pin all these black ribbons on God when that's his reality? It's like, you're right. It doesn't make sense to pin them on him in that God reality. But that's why he showed up as the Son, so that he could have a black ribbon pinned on him.